Are you awake or just functioning?
This is Neural Echo, late night thoughts for people who notice too much.
And Beatty, thank you for being here with us in this space. I can almost feel the air pressure change whenever we sit down to talk about this.
It's a heavy subject.
It is. It really is. Because what we're diving into today, it feels less like a topic we can just analyze from a distance, and more like the actual air we're breathing.
Yeah.
The background hum of everything.
We're talking about the sleep.
The sleep, yeah.
And we need to be very clear right from the start. This might be counterintuitive, but we are not discussing biological rest, not the physical need for sleep.
No, that's restorative. That's necessary.
It is necessary. It's honest. What we're exploring today is something else entirely. It's that state of open-eyed absence.
Open-eyed absence. That's a chilling way to put it.
A kind of psychological dormancy. It allows the body to function, sometimes at, peak efficiency.
Right, doing all the things it's supposed to do.
All the things. But the awareness, the actual conscious self, remains disengaged.
See, this is where the anxiety kicks in for me. I have to admit, my gut reaction to this whole topic is fear. This idea that if I stop moving, if I stop planning the next task, if I just stop being busy,
the quiet sets in.
The quiet sets in and something else surfaces. Something, I don't know, unsettling. The awareness of the emptiness, maybe.
Oh.
I think I use busyness as a shield.
Many do.
And that's why we have to do this. This dive is for you listening right now. If you feel that weird paradox, the world is just screaming forward, the markets, the news, the feeds. It's also fast. But inside you just feel completely still, like you're standing still inside your own head watching it all go by.
And our sources for this, they paint a very disturbing map of this psychological sleep. We're going to be looking at how it actually manifests, why it's not just tolerated, but actively enforced by the world around us.
And what happens when it breaks? That's the part that gets me.
And crucially, what happens in those very fragile moments when the script falters and presence tries to re-enter the room. Our goal here is to really unpack the mechanics of this absence, to sort of map out the infrastructure of the non-present life that so many of us are living.
Okay, let's do it. Let's try and define this thing, this psychological sleep, because right away there's that paradox you mentioned, the one that for me feels like running just to stay in the same place.
Indeed. It's the fundamental contradiction, and it's something that every piece of material we looked at confirms. It's this. Psychological sleep does not look like rest. It doesn't look like someone lying down.
No.
It looks like the complete opposite. It looks like busyness.
Frantic busyness.
High-octane absence. That's a good way to put it.
So if the sources are right, sleep is actually fueled by motion, by the constant, almost aggressive need to fill every single second with something, input or output.
Scrolling, speaking, consuming, reacting.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything at all to avoid that internal quiet where a real thought might actually land, that busyness, that constant functional hum.
Yeah.
It really does feel like the ultimate security blanket.
It's the white noise.
Yeah, it's the white noise that protects us from the actual signal.
That is the essential insight. The white noise analogy is perfect. The sleep state exists primarily to save on cognitive energy. Our sources define it very simply. Living on autopilot so awareness doesn't have to show up and spend energy.
So it's an efficiency measure.
At its core, yes. We move through our days as functional sleepwalkers. The eyes are open, the body's engaged, you're driving the car, you're typing the email.
You're in the meeting, nodding.
But the crucial reflective conscious mind is somewhere else. It's only processing habit. Following a script it's run 1,000 times before, it's never actually authentically engaging with the now. Okay, but wait. I have to push back on that a little bit, because if I'm doing something complex, right, like if I'm writing code or trying to navigate a really tricky conversation, doesn't that require me to be aware? How do the sources separate that kind of necessary focus from this deep sleep?
That is the crucial distinction, and it's a subtle one. We're not talking about the awareness required for task completion.
Yeah.
We are talking about the awareness required for meaning, for genuine choice. Yeah. The sources suggest that our modern systems, especially professional ones, train the mind to operate on what they call minimum viable presence.
Minimum viable presence. Wow.
It's just enough cognitive load to drive the car safely, to complete a complex financial model, to reply to that sensitive email, but the system is designed to filter out the other stuff.
What other stuff?
The need to reflect on the moral cost of the action, the emotional investment, the actual long-term purpose of what you're doing. It filters all that out as inefficient.
Yeah.
It's awareness without reflection. It's like watching a 4K video of a life. The performance looks perfect, you can see every detail, but the consciousness that's supposed to be driving the character is, I don't know, buffering somewhere else to save bandwidth.
Exactly, to save energy.
I look around me, and the offices are full. The streets are full. The internet is overflowing with human activity. It's frantic, it's constant. And yet, one of the sources had that line that just stuck with me. Awareness is thin.
And this leads us directly to the systemic incentives, the external gravity that pulls us into this state. If you are running a large system, a corporation, a government, a social media platform, what kind of behavior do you reward?
Predictable behavior, fast behavior.
You reward motion, not presence. You reward speed, not depth. You reward reaction, not reflection. If your goal is maximum efficiency and predictability, then a truly present, questioning individual is. Well, they're a bug.
They're cognitive friction. That's what it is. If you pause to ask, wait, why are we doing this? The machine slows down. If you stop to actually feel the weight of a decision, the whole assembly line grinds to a halt.
So the environment itself, our entire economic and social structure, it's designed to reward the fastest, least reflective movement. It rewards the efficient sleepwalker.
The world is built to punish stillness.
Yeah.
I feel that. If you're just sitting thinking, you're seen as idle, unproductive, maybe even suspicious.
But if you're moving, even if it's in a circle, you're praised.
And that movement, it needs a track to run on. Which I think brings us right into our first section here, routines and the sedation state. The autopilot mechanism. I'm really stuck on this idea of the illusion of motion.
The illusion of motion is the key. It's what maintains the sleep without causing a revolt, because it makes you feel productive, it makes you feel necessary, and therefore validated.
Even if you haven't made a single conscious choice all day.
Precisely. You've checked off tasks A, B, and C, you've cleared your inbox, you've reacted to every notification, but the central self, the choosing self, has been completely dormant. It outsourced its entire day to habit and external demands.
I measure my own day like that all the time. How full is my calendar? How many items did I cross off the list? It's all just a metric of motion. And if I spend an hour just staring out the window, trying to connect two ideas, trying to find one, genuine insight, I feel this sharp, immediate guilt.
That will tells you you're wasting time.
Exactly. Even though that 1 hour of stillness might generate more real meaning than a whole week of frantic activity, the whole reward structure is backward.
And that inverted reward structure, it reinforces the state. We think we're acting freely, but we are just running scripts that we know will generate praise from the system. And this brings us to routines, the building blocks of this sedation.
And we have to be really clear on this point from the sources. Routines are not the enemy here. Structure can be good. It can be a platform for freedom.
It can. The problem is not routine. It is unquestioned routine.
The unquestioned routine.
That is the hypnotic rhythm that keeps the sleep stable, because it removes the need for micro decisions. Every moment you have to make a conscious choice is a moment you might accidentally wake up. The routine is a guarantee that the day can proceed without that expensive energy expenditure.
Let's list some of them. The sources call them the daily sedatives, and the list it's actually terrifyingly familiar. It starts with the morning alarm.
Not just a sound, a command that dictates the entire pace and urgency of the next 3 hours.
Then there's the commute, the exact same route every single day to make sure no new or unexpected sight can interrupt your internal rehearsal for the day ahead.
The flood of notifications on your phone, each one demanding an immediate, shallow reaction, never a deep engagement.
The deadlines. The non-negotiable deadlines that ensure your focus is always external, always on the next thing, never on the now.
These external rhythms, they become internalized. They become the masters of your day. The body just moves, the mind follows the habit, and that quiet, reflective part of you, the inner self, it stays silent.
It doesn't need to speak. Why would it? The routine is a perfect buffer against uncertainty. If every minute is accounted for, you never have to face that uncomfortable empty space.
The void.
The void where awareness might bubble up and start asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
Like, am I happy? Is this what I want? Why am I doing this?
That uncomfortable void is what the sleeping self fears most.
It's what I fear most. I find myself scheduling things just to avoid those little gaps between meetings. I am actively choosing the sedation over the terror of genuine presence.
And this leads us to the most devastating part of the mechanism. The sources call it the cage of comfort. This is perhaps the most insidious part of the whole system.
We think of comfort as a goal, as freedom. But in this context, comfort is the most effective cage ever built.
It's not a cage because it causes pain. If it were painful, you would fight to escape it. It is a cage because it dulls. It removes the evolutionary need for sharp, critical awareness.
Explain that.
When life demands constant struggle, when the weather is a threat or finding food is a challenge, your awareness has to be razor sharp just to survive. But when everything is reasonably smooth, reasonably efficient, reasonably effortless, you atrophy the muscle of questioning.
The analogy is perfect. Why would you ever try to look past the bars of the cage if your favorite food is delivered on time and the temperature is always perfect? The system has perfected the art of delivering just enough gratification
And just enough distraction.
to keep our self-interrogation switch permanently in the off position.
And so, the greatest illusion keeping the sleep stable is not some grand conspiracy. It's not some obvious external lie. Those things tend to provoke resistance. The greatest illusion is normalcy without awareness. It's that pervasive, low-level feeling that everything is basically fine as long as you don't look too closely. Not at your own life, and certainly not at the structure of the world around you.
And that's why breaking out of it feels so hard. Because the moment you step outside that comfortable, dulling cage, you are immediately hit with the cold, uncomfortable reality of choice, of sustained presence, and choice. Well, choice takes effort.
And that effort, that energy expenditure, is precisely what the sleeping self is programmed to avoid at all costs. Which brings us to the next layer. Let's move into section 2, the social enforcement of absence.
So we've talked about the internal mechanism, the autopilot. Now we're talking about the external pressure, the gravity from the rest of the world that keeps us locked in.
This suggests the system isn't just a passive beneficiary of our sleep, it's actively engineered to prefer it, to reward it.
That's a really unsettling thought.
The sources are quite unequivocal on this point. Society rewards sleep. It provides clear, tangible benefits for those who maintain that psychological absence and just stick to the script. It's how the system maintains its own stability.
Okay, so let's get specific. What are these rewards? Because they're not abstract, are they? They're built right into our lives.
Not at all. First, you are praised for fitting in, for having predictable, moderate opinions that don't rock the boat.
We're not being difficult.
For not being difficult. Second, you are promoted for obedience, for valuing the corporate procedure over your own independent, potentially disruptive insight. And third, you are applauded for repeating approved desires.
What do you mean by that? Repeating approved desires.
For consuming the right brands, for wanting the latest phone, for enjoying the forms of entertainment that are most profitable and least challenging.
It's an efficiency loop. It's designed for scale. The compliant mind is the most efficient worker, the most predictable consumer.
And the most stable citizen. If your desires are mass-produced and predictable, you become a frictionless gear in the machine. The system doesn't necessarily hate the critical thinker, but it sees them as a friction point, a bug in the code that needs to be isolated or corrected.
And that training, that social education, it starts so early. The lesson is simple and it's constant. Stay agreeable, stay busy, don't look too closely.
If you start digging around at the foundations, if you start asking questions that can't be solved with a simple purchase, you introduce instability. And that is why the sleep is socially enforced with carrots, not just sticks. Compliance is made to feel good.
I feel that limit on questioning everywhere. We're allowed to debate, sure, but only within these very narrow pre-approved boundaries.
Yes.
We can argue about which person should manage the existing structure, but we can't really question the structure itself. The nature of our consumption, the sheer speed of life, the value we place on busyness, those things are off limits.
That brings up the concept of aesthetic depth. Our sources talk about this quite a bit. Depth is welcome, but only when it is aesthetic.
Meaning?
What? Meaning, you are allowed to consume depth. You can read the challenging book, you can watch the profound documentary, you can have a philosophical debate with your friends. As long as none of it actually changes your behavior, as long as it doesn't disrupt your routine.
So depth becomes a kind of high-status hobby,
Yeah.
an intellectual decoration. It lets you feel smart and engaged without having to risk the comfort of your cage.
Precisely. The system loves the discussion of rebellion. As long as you're having that discussion from your designated seat on the assembly line, it's when that depth stops being aesthetic and becomes disruptive.
When you start acting differently because of what you've learned.
That's when the subtle sanctions begin.
And it's not like, you get arrested. It's more subtle. People just start treating you like you're being difficult or impractical or just weird.
They sense the misalignment, and that misalignment is a fundamental threat to the comfort cage they are still inside. If you are questioning the routine, you are implicitly questioning their own choice to accept it. And that is a social violation more powerful than any law.
This forces us to look at it differently then. Maybe the sleep isn't just stupidity or a failure. Maybe it's a form of adaptation.
A rational adaptation to an overwhelmingly complex world.
How can being absent be rational?
Because systems are heavy. To function inside them, to manage the logistics of modern life, the finances, the endless information, the emotional regulation it takes just to get through the day, it all requires immense sustained energy. The system is designed to overload you.
And staying awake, staying truly present, that takes even more energy. Questioning takes courage. It opens you up to difficult changes. Presence is an active state. It burns calories.
So the sleep is the low energy default. It is the path of least resistance. If you can get through life on pre-recorded loops, you conserve the resources you'd otherwise need for critical thought, for deep emotion, for genuine choice. We are hardwired to reduce cognitive load. The system knows this, and it exploits it.
So we're taking on a kind of cognitive debt. We're borrowing energy from our future selves, from our potential for real presence, just to get through today more efficiently.
It's a resource conservation strategy that leads to a lifetime of absence. But, and this is critical, the sources all agree. This state is not inevitable. It's a choice, reinforced over and over by the world around us. And that brings us to the most intimate and unsettling part of this. Section 3, the spark and the inner observer.
What happens when the machine glitches?
That happens when the sleep falters.
I find myself watching for these moments now, these little interrupts, and they're never the big dramatic awakenings you see in movies. They're so small, almost mundane.
What do they feel like?
The sources mention a sudden silence in a crowded room, where all the sound just drops out for a second. Or a glance up at the sky that somehow bypasses all your mental chatter. Or just a sentence in a conversation that lands way too deeply. It hits some unspoken truth.
These are cracks. Cracks in the surface tension of the routine. They are unexpected moments of objective reality that your autopilot's filter just didn't catch. For a split second, the mind stops projecting what's next or replaying what just happened. And it actually sees the present moment, raw and unfiltered.
And that spark, it's so fragile, it doesn't shout at you, it just whispers. And if you're caught up in the usual noise, you can miss it completely. Or it just feels like a tiny irritation, a hiccup in your day.
But if you hold it, if you just pay attention to it for one extra second, there's an immediate counter-reaction. The sleeping mind throws up its defenses.
A violent counter-reaction.
It is violent. It's the self-correction mechanism of the sleep. Most people, in that moment, will immediately drown the spark with noise. A reflexive joke to break the tension, a sudden need to check their phone, any kind of frantic motion. You pull yourself forcefully back into the routine. The system and your own sleeping self does not tolerate unscheduled presence.
This gets us to that physical sensation, the one the sources called the falling feeling. This idea that your own mind is actively pulling you back into habit because it thinks you're in danger.
Imagine you're standing on the edge of a cliff. And for a second, you feel that lurch of vertigo, that instability. It's a similar neurological event. When that spark hits, you have a sudden, shocking realization of where you actually are in space and time, separate from the script you were running.
And the falling feeling is your brain screaming, "Emergency!"
It's the brain interpreting the radical shift from autopilot to full conscious presence as a threat. It's a defense mechanism against the cognitive uncertainty, the sheer energy cost of being truly awake.
It's an anxiety response, saying, "Warning, unscheduled energy expenditure ahead. Potential for emotional distress detected. Return to safe, predefined thought patterns immediately."
You can compare it directly to a hypnic jerk, that sudden jolt your body gives you just as you're falling asleep. That jolt is designed to pull you back, to stop you from going too deep, too fast. In the psychological sense, the falling feeling is a jolt that pulls you away from the scary, energy-intensive depth of pure awareness and back onto the safe, shallow pavement of habit. The mind protects the autopilot because the autopilot is safe and cheap. True awareness is dangerous and expensive.
And you feel annoyed. I felt that. Annoyed at the interruption because my mind has been trained to see efficiency as the highest good.
And this leads us to the ghost story, the core unsettling realization that happens in that moment of the fall, the emergence of the inner observer.
The moment you realize you're watching yourself.
Why do people everywhere describe the same feeling of being watched by themselves?
It's the realization of fragmentation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's terrifying because it means the I that is noticing is separate from the me that is just going through the motions.
The observer has the sudden thought, I am watching this machine that is my body, and I don't remember authorizing this script. The life I am living is being run by a background process.
And the inner observer, that's the first real flicker of presence. It's the part of you that was sovereign, the part that makes choices. Realizing that the automated self has been running the whole show. Managing the money, sending the emails, moving the body from place to place.
And when that spark hits, the watcher doesn't speak with words. It speaks with a gaze. An internal gaze.
And the automated self, the one that's been on autopilot, it suddenly becomes self-conscious under that gaze. It's the feeling of realizing you're participating in a life that was built by habit and necessity, not by choice. And the original architect has just come back to inspect the building.
And that realization, even if it only lasts for a second, even if you immediately pull yourself back into the script, it changes everything. You can never go back to the sleep with the same innocence. You now know a choice is being made every second of every day, even if you keep choosing the autopilot. Because the price of awareness is suddenly very real.
And the consequence of letting that spark linger, of letting that inner observer stay, it's separation. It's what the sources call the loneliness of notice.
Noticing changes the texture of reality. You stop seeing the world as a seamless story, and you start seeing the underlying code, the repetitions.
We need to make that distinction you mentioned earlier, repetition versus routine.
Yes, a routine can be a conscious choice, an intentional structure you create to make space for something meaningful, like deciding to wake up early every day to write. That's an act of conscious will.
But repetition, as the sources define it, that's the unconscious cycle that runs you when the inner observer is dormant. It's the same argument with your partner, the same reflexive anger at the news, the same mindless consumption pattern playing on a loop, an identical endless loop.
So while everyone around you is celebrating the smoothness of the routine, the efficiency of it all, you are starting to see the endless, identical loop of the repetition. You see the pattern of distraction, the predictability of desire, the emptiness under the surface, and once you see the loop, you cannot unsee it.
And that's where the loneliness comes from. It's not physical isolation, you're still surrounded by people,
Right.
but it's this deep, almost agonizing misalignment.
You're speaking a slightly different language now.
Exactly. They're all discussing the plot of the movie, and you're trying to talk about the stage lights and the cameras and the fact that the actors are just reading lines from a script.
You try to share it, you try to point out the repetition, and you're met with confusion. Or worse, you're met with genuine worry for your well-being. You realize that your new awareness requires a constant vigilance, a constant effort that most people have rationally chosen not to spend.
It's the price of liberation. You gain your own mind, but you lose the comforting consensus of the sleep. You are awake to something they are determined to ignore, because ignoring it is their survival strategy.
But this separation, this misalignment, it's not the end. It's the beginning. It's the necessary preparation for engagement. Which brings us to section 4, the first rebellion.
And we're shifting here from just diagnosing the problem to action, but it's not the kind of action you'd expect. It's all internal. It's observational.
Awakening does not begin with dramatic answers. It begins with quiet observation. The first rebellion is not a protest march.
It's not quitting your job and moving to the woods.
No! That can, ironically, just become a new, equally rigid, unquestioned routine. The first rebellion is an audit of your own internal operations.
It's turning that inner observer's gaze onto your own life, onto your own habits, especially the little habits you use to drown the spark when it appears. The rebellion is as simple and as difficult as saying, I am going to watch myself live this life.
The sources suggest some very specific actions for this internal audit. The first is structured silence, finding just 5 minutes a day where you actively refuse all input, no music, no phone, no planning, and just watch the intense internal pressure to fill that void.
The second is noticing your reactions. When that spark hits, what is your knee-jerk defense? Is it a joke? Is it a flash of anger? Is it reaching for your phone? Just notice it. Don't judge it, just notice it.
And third, Question your exhaustion. Why does answering this one specific unimportant email drain you more than running up a flight of stairs? Why does this particular news story make you feel obligated to have an immediate prepackaged opinion?
Because that's where the script is running you. That's where your energy is being spent maintaining the performance, not living the life.
And this is the hard work. Because it means you have to take some responsibility for the scripts you're running. You can't just blame the external system if you are actively choosing to follow its rules out of a desire for comfort or a fear of misalignment. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
The system builds the cage, but you have to agree to walk into it every day.
And this brings us to the core of it all, the currency of this whole rebellion. Attention.
Awakening begins with attention.
And attention, as one source put it, is the rarest and most valuable currency we have left.
And that, for me, is the most profound observation in all of this. Because the entire system that enforces the sleep depends completely on the scarcity of your attention, on its fragmentation.
The modern economy, especially the digital economy, is an attention extraction machine. If every person suddenly developed sustained, directed attention, the entire model of mass distraction would collapse overnight.
The advertising model, the 24-hour news cycle designed to keep you emotionally reactive, the endless notifications, all of it relies on the pre-fragmentation of your focus. They don't want quality of focus. They want quantity of fleeting glances.
So the moment you choose to apply your full, sustained attention to one thing, to a conversation, to your work, to the simple act of making a meal, you are performing an act of rebellion.
A profound act of psychological rebellion. You are choosing the expensive, conscious path over the cheap, automated one.
Reclaiming your attention is the fundamental act. It's saying, I choose what I will spend my limited energy on. And that choice, made over and over, is what breaks the cycle of reaction. It's closing the notification and leaving it closed. It's understanding the system is demanding something from you that you've decided to keep for yourself.
But this isn't about winning some final battle overnight. It's about understanding the scale of the effort. The sleep isn't inevitable, but the pull to return to it is constant. It will always be the path of least resistance.
So, we're encouraging the learner in you to be patient. You don't have to achieve some kind of, total enlightenment tomorrow. You just have to try and notice a little more than you did yesterday. If you held on to that spark for 1 extra second today, if you paused for a breath before you reacted, you've already started.
The goal isn't perfection, it's momentum. The momentum of presence, slowly chipping away at the massive inertia of habit. It's a journey of tiny increments.
Let's try to pull this all together, because it is heavy. It's meant to be heavy.
We've explored the mechanics of the sleep, this psychological state of living on autopilot disguised as frantic efficiency. We've talked about the comfort cage, which dulls our awareness more effectively than any pain could, because it removes the very motivation to look for a way out.
We looked at how society actually rewards this absence, this conformity. Confirming the system isn't neutral.
Yeah.
It actively wants the low-energy, predictable version of you. And then we talk about those quiet, almost terrifying moments when presence tries to break through.
The spark. The neurological anxiety of the falling feeling. The emergence of that unsettling inner observer.
The realization that you are watching an automated version of yourself run your life.
Yeah.
And the loneliness that comes from realizing almost no one else is looking.
So if this deep dive felt uncomfortably familiar, if you felt that vertigo, that sense of misalignment, that flash of nervous recognition, that is not a problem.
No, that's not a failure. That is awareness knocking at your door.
You don't have to answer it right away,
Nope.
but you know it's there now. You know what it feels like to be caught between the speed of the world and the stillness of your own sovereign self. The work now is not to escape, it's just to watch.
Tonight, don't try to wake up. Just try to catch the moment you stop being present. I dare you.